Being a UFC fighter means putting in endless hours of training and saying no to some of the tastiest foods out there, but even the most disciplined athletes need a cheat day to indulge in something delicious. And yes, their cheat meals are as varied as their fighting styles. Stipe Miocic, for example, loves pizza.
Yeah, I love pizza, Pizza's awesome. I love pizza.
While Brandon Monero is a big fan of burger.
Brother, you need to watch this.
While these fighters dedicate their lives to being in peak physical condition, it's comforting to know that when it's cheat meal time, they're just like the rest of us, living for the carbs, the grease, and that sweet, sweet flavor. Stipe Miocic, pizza. Stipe Miocic's career has been a triumphant journey filled with record-breaking achievements that have earned him widespread recognition as the greatest UFC heavyweight of all time. A powerful force in the octagon, Miocic has held the UFC Heavyweight Championship title twice, defending it a record 4 times across 2 reigns. His impressive streak of 3 consecutive title defenses remains unmatched in the heavyweight division. Among his greatest battles was his first title win at UFC 198 in 2016 against Fabricio Werdum, where he claimed the belt with a decisive first-round knockout. Miocic went on to defend his title against elite fighters like Alistair Overeem, Junior Dos Santos, and Francis Ngannou. The defense against Ngannou in 2018 was particularly notable, as Miocic dominated a heavily promoted opponent, showcasing his superior skill and resilience over 5 intense rounds and setting a new record for consecutive heavyweight title defenses. When MMA journalist James Lynch asked him about his go-to cheat meal, Stipe didn't hesitate. You could practically hear the love in his voice when he said, "Pizza is awesome."
Yeah, I love pizza, Pizza's awesome. I love pizza.
That's the kind of passion that makes you wonder if he's more excited about pizza than winning his next fight. And honestly, he's not alone. Pizza was the undisputed champ among several UFC fighters. Sean O'Malley is another fighter who confessed his love for pizza. Sean O'Malley, pizza. Sean O'Malley, better known to fans as Sugar, is a standout in mixed martial arts. His nickname was bestowed upon him during his early days in Montana, hinting at the flair and sweetness in his fighting style. O'Malley's professional career took off with 5 victories in his native Montana before moving on to North Dakota and eventually making a splash in Legacy Fighting Alliance. His knockout of David Nuzzo in LFA caught the attention of Dana White, earning him a spot on Dana White's Contender Series in 2017, where a first-round knockout over Alfred Kashakian secured his UFC contract. In 2022, O'Malley faced former champion Petr Yan. The fight solidified O'Malley's position as a top contender, earning him a Fight of the Night bonus. His success has also propelled him into the UFC pound-for-pound rankings, where he is recognized as one of the best fighters across all divisions. When it comes to cheat meals, Sean O'Malley's go-to meal is greasy pizza. O'Malley's confessed that the closer he gets to a fight, the more he starts craving that delicious greasy slice.
I feel like it's always pizza. It's always, the closer I get, the more I crave pizza. I feel like that's a lot of fighters. It's just a greasy pizza. It always sounds so good.
It's a feeling most fighters can relate to. After weeks of strict diets and training, that pizza, crispy crust, melted cheese, and all those toppings just sounds so good. It's the one thing that pulls him in and gets his mouth watering every time. Other fighters have different meals they cannot resist. Brando Monero, for example, is in love with burgers. Brandon Monero, burger. Brandon Moreno is a renowned mixed martial artist who competes in the UFC's flyweight division. Nicknamed the Assassin Baby, Moreno became the first Mexican fighter to win a UFC championship, securing the UFC flyweight title twice. Moreno's journey into mixed martial arts began with an early interest in boxing, which eventually led him to explore kickboxing and Brazilian jiu-jitsu. He made his professional debut in 2011 and went on to gain recognition with a series of successful performances. His first major break came when he won the flyweight title in the World Fighting Federation, WFF, which paved the way for his appearance on The Ultimate Fighter reality show. Although he was eliminated early on in the competition, Moreno's UFC debut came soon after, in 2016, where he defeated Louis Smolka by submission. As of now, he remains a top contender in the flyweight division, holding the number 2 spot in the UFC rankings. When asked about his cheat meal, Brandon Moreno went for something incredibly relatable. A good old burger from a fast food joint. Simple, classic, satisfying.
Brother, you need to watch this.
Brandon Moreno took his love for burgers to the next level by actually showing the interviewer his prized cheat meal. Unlike the previous fighters, the next fighter does not have a conventional cheat meal. Conor McGregor, coffee and cake. Conor McGregor stepped into MMA at 18 in 2007, winning his first amateur fight with a first-round TKO. Turning pro soon after, he faced setbacks, including 2 submission losses, but stayed determined. From 2011 to 2012, he went on an 8-fight winning streak, claiming the Cage Warriors featherweight and lightweight titles, becoming the first European to hold 2 belts at once. In 2013, McGregor caught the attention of UFC President Dana White and was signed by the UFC. He made an unforgettable debut, knocking out Marcus Brimage in the first round and earning his first Knockout of the Night award. Over the next few years, McGregor wowed fans with his confidence, trash talk, and striking skills. Key wins included a dominant victory over Dustin Poirier and a 13-second knockout of Jose Aldo at UFC 194, which set the record for the fastest knockout in a UFC title fight, earning him the featherweight championship. McGregor's most historic moment came in 2016 at UFC 205, when he defeated Eddie Alvarez via a second-round TKO to claim the lightweight championship, becoming the first UFC fighter to hold titles in 2 weight classes simultaneously. Conor McGregor's diet is pretty strict, but like all other fighters, he has his cheat moments. And when McGregor decides to indulge, he doesn't go for a greasy takeaway or a giant pizza, he's more into coffee and cakes. "I have a sweet tooth," McGregor admitted. "That's where I'd put on weight if I wasn't careful. If someone brings in a pack of cakes and coffee, I'm all in." Just like McGregor, Covington also has a sweet tooth. Colby Covington, steak and mashed potatoes. Colby Covington is a fighter who really knows how to make an impact in the octagon and doesn't shy away from grabbing attention, whether for his performances or his outspoken personality. Before making it big in the UFC, Covington started out wrestling in high school in Oregon, where he dominated at the state level. He took his talent to Iowa Central Community College, where he won a national junior college wrestling title. This success earned him a transfer to the University of Iowa, before eventually moving to Oregon State University, where he earned All-American honors. After finishing his college wrestling career in 2011, he joined the American Top Team and quickly began making a name for himself in the MMA world. By 2014, he was signed by the UFC and wasted no time in making his debut, winning his first 2 fights in dominating fashion. In 2019, Covington crushed Robbie Lawler in a record-breaking fight for the most strikes thrown in UFC history, 541. Now, Colby Covington sits at number 6 in the UFC welterweight rankings. In an interview, Covington named steak and mashed potatoes as his cheat meal, something all the people in America can relate to.
I just like a good steak, some mashed potatoes, an all-American meal, something that all the people in America can relate to.
The next fighter could not pick a cheat meal. He eats a lot of junk when he wants to go outside his recommended meals. Alex Hernandez. Alexander Hernandez is a guy who's made quite an impression in the UFC, especially in the featherweight division. He didn't start off with a gold-plated opportunity, but he's definitely carved out his own path. Hernandez, originally from Texas, didn't just wake up one day as a pro fighter. He actually started out with wrestling at the age of 13, which, let's be honest, is a pretty solid foundation. Alexander Hernandez made his UFC debut in 2018 in a surprising way. He wasn't originally scheduled to fight Beneil Dariush at UFC 222, but he stepped in as a last-minute replacement for Bobby Green. Hernandez made an instant impact by knocking out Dariush in the first minute of the fight. His performance earned him a Performance of the Night bonus, making it a memorable UFC debut. After that knockout, Hernandez faced some challenges, but his win over Olivier Aubin-Mercier was another standout moment. He earned a unanimous decision victory, proving he wasn't just here to show up, he was here to compete and win. His early fights made it clear that he meant business in the UFC. His 2020 knockout of Chris Gruetzemacher earned him a Performance of the Night bonus, and he's proven himself tough and gritty, never backing down. When asked for his cheat meal, Hernandez named a couple of meals, including Cinnamon Toast Crunch, cereals, and pancakes.
It always changes. Like right now, I've just been thinking a lot about Cinnamon Toast Crunch. I've been thinking about cereals a lot. I've been thinking a lot about cereals. I kind of like makeshifted my way around a lot of things. Like girlfriend's been making these like badass pancakes.
The next fighter has a very conventional but interesting combination of cheat meals. Emily Whitmire, toasts, pizza. Emily Ann Whitmire spent her early years barrel racing horses, even dreaming of making it to the national finals rodeo. But one night, when she was 18, Emily sneaked into a bar with a fake ID. She ended up in a grappling match with Lisa Ellis. Though she lost, that match sparked something in her, and she was hooked on the sport. She started training at a gym in Portland, and before long, she was stepping into amateur matches. Fast forward to 2017, she got the chance to compete on The Ultimate Fighter 26, the show that would crown the first UFC women's flyweight champion. She faced Christina Marks in the opening round and won with a submission in the first round. Emily made her UFC debut later that year at the Ultimate Fighter 26 finale in December 2017, where she faced Gillian Robertson. Unfortunately, things didn't go her way, and she lost by submission in the first round. Not long after, she bounced back at UFC 226 in July 2018, facing Jamie Moyle. Emily picked up a solid win, earning a unanimous decision. Her time in the UFC continued with a fight against Hannah Goldie in September 2021. Unfortunately, Emily lost again by armbar submission in round 1, and that marked the end of her UFC run. After the loss, she was no longer part of the UFC roster, but that didn't stop her from continuing to chase her dreams. In an interview with UFC, Emily expressed her love for toast and pizza.
For some reason, my last few fights, I kind of go on this toast bender where I just only want to eat toast. And so toast with butter, toast with jelly, I just really love toast. Pizza's always a good one.
The next fighter has probably the most interesting combination of cheat meals you will ever find. Jessica Eye, chocolates, candies, and cocktails. Jessica Eye, better known to fight fans as Evil, is one of those athletes whose life has been as intense outside the cage as inside it. She was just 6. She and her siblings had to adapt to a whole new life. At 16, tragedy struck when a drunk driver hit her and her dad, leaving her with a broken back and months of recovery. Instead of breaking her spirit, it gave her grit. That accident planted the seed of her fighting spirit, which later blossomed into her MMA career. Jessica made her amateur debut in 2008, where she quickly made a name for herself, going undefeated and snagging her first amateur title. Her professional career kicked off in 2010, and she made waves early on, securing wins and even becoming a champion with the Ring of Combat promotion. Her aggressive style, quick hands, and sharp striking skills turned heads everywhere. Her Bellator days were full of exciting moments. She even pulled off a stunning standing arm triangle choke against Zoila Frausto-Gurgel in under a minute, a moment fans still talk about. Jessica officially hung up her gloves in 2022 after a loss to Macy Barber. Dana White once described her as a pure fighter, someone who lived for the moments inside the cage, and he wasn't wrong. In an interview with UFC, Jessica made it clear that she has a very sweet tooth and loves lots of candies and chocolates.
Chocolate, anything chocolate, anything that feels like candy, anything that feels like a sweet, indulgent, in my life. So usually that, and then a nice cocktail, usually just to bring the mood down. I'd have something that just all right.
The next fighter's cheat meal might make you wonder if he's training for the octagon or a bartending competition. It's less about satisfying a sweet tooth and more about indulging his love for alcohol. Jimmy Crute, beer. Jimmy Crute is an Australian powerhouse who's made quite a name for himself in mixed martial arts. Currently, Jimmy throws down in the UFC's light heavyweight division, where the stakes are always sky high. But before he stepped into the big leagues, he was dominating the Australian scene as the Hex Fight Series light heavyweight champion, and he didn't just win the title, he defended it twice. Jimmy turned pro at 19 in the Hex Fight Series. In his debut fight in Melbourne, he scored a first-round submission. That set the tone for his early career and got Dana White's attention. Jimmy didn't waste time making waves in the UFC. He debuted against Paul Craig in December 2018 and won via Kimura in the third round. A couple of months later, he faced Sam Alvey and took him out with a first-round TKO. In February 2020, he snagged a performance of the night bonus for submitting Michał Oleksiejczuk with a Kimura in the first round. Later that year, he scored another performance of the night award with a brutal first-round knockout against Modestas Bukauskas. When asked for his cheat meal, he unashamedly mentioned that he does not know about meals, but he loves beer, claiming that he could take as many as 13 bottles within an hour.
I don't know about meals, but I reckon I'm going to slam about 13 beers in the space of an hour, straight up.
The next fighter carefully chose a very specific meal as his cheat meal: Alex Perez, Korean barbecue. Alexander Perez is an American mixed martial artist who is currently competing in the UFC's flyweight division. Born on March 21st, 1992, this guy has had quite the career so far, and as of August 2024, he's ranked number 6 in the UFC flyweight rankings. Perez is of Mexican descent. He started wrestling in middle school alongside 2 of his brothers, Silverio Esparza and Julian Perez. He even went on to represent West Hills College Lemoore in junior college wrestling, where he not only became a regional champion, but also earned All-American honors. After high school, Perez transitioned into MMA, using his solid wrestling background to help train some of his friends for their own fights. It didn't take long before he made his own debut, stepping into the ring for his professional MMA debut at TPF 9 on May 6, 2011. He knocked out his opponent, Jesus Castro, in round 1, and that was just the beginning. Over the next few years, Perez would rack up a solid record record of 16 wins and 4 losses before making his way into Dana White's Contender Series. There, he faced Kevin Gray, secured a victory, and earned his spot in the UFC. Not bad for a guy who started helping his friends train. Perez officially made his UFC debut on December 9, 2017, against Carlos John de Tomas at UFC Fight Night, Swanson vs. Ortega. He won the fight via submission in the second round, setting the tone for his UFC career. In an online interview with a very wide smile, Perez mentioned his craving for Korean barbecue and how he hurries to the airport to get it.
Korean barbecue, man. I literally flew in, got picked up, and went straight from the airport to Korean barbecue. I didn't even go home to unpack. I just went straight to Korean barbecue.
Not every fighter has that one meal they are obsessed with, like Perez. The next fighter has a meal he takes before a fight, and another one he takes after. Stephen Thompson, zucchini spaghetti, pizza, and beer. Stephen Thompson isn't just your average UFC fighter, he's a living, kicking legend. Born on February 11th, 1983, in Simpsonville, South Carolina, Thompson's been a martial artist practically since the moment he could walk. His dad, Ray Thompson, a former professional kickboxer, made sure of that. People who know striking call him one of the best there is. In fact, even now, in 2024, he's still ranked number 10 in the UFC's welterweight division. Thompson has a reputation for being a genuinely nice guy, polite, respectful, and basically the opposite of the stereotypical trash-talking fighter. Other fighters always say how professional and humble he is, which is rare in a sport that loves drama. Thompson made his UFC debut in 2012 against Dan Stitgen, and boom, he won by first-round KO. The UFC crowd was wowed, and he earned knockout of the night honors for it. After a loss to Matt Brown, he bounced back in 2013 with a win over Nashon Burrell. By 2014, he was really starting to show what he could do. He even took down future middleweight champion Robert Whittaker, winning by first-round TKO. By 2015, Thompson was climbing the ranks. He had a quick KO win over Jake Ellenberger, earning performance of the night honors, and he wasn't stopping there. In 2016, he added another TKO win to his record against former champion Johnny Hendricks and took down Rory McDonald with a unanimous decision. Most recently, in 2024, Thompson took on Joaquin Buckley at UFC 307. Unfortunately, he lost the fight by knockout in the third round. But despite the losses, Thompson is still a force to be reckoned with in the welterweight division. Unlike every other fighter with cheat meals, Thompson prefers zucchini spaghetti before fights and pizza and beer after fights.
Meal, it's like a zucchini spaghetti. So if they use zucchini and make little zucchini noodles and have spaghetti sauce on top. But that would say that's before the fight. After, pizza and beer, man. I look for the first pizza spot and I get a brewski.
The next fighter has a cheat meal of a typical sweet tooth. Casey O'Neill, donuts and cookies. Casey O'Neill is a Scottish-Australian fighter who's been making waves in the UFC's women's flyweight division. This woman has shown some serious grit over the years. As of July 2024, she's ranked number 15 in the UFC's flyweight rankings, which is no small feat, especially in a division that's packed with talent. She started training in kickboxing when she was only 4. Later, at 13, she added Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu to the mix, showing early on that she was committed to mastering all aspects of martial arts. In 2019, O'Neill packed her bags and moved to Phuket, Thailand, to train at the famous Tiger Muay Thai gym. And from there, things really began to take off. Her pro debut came in April 2019 at Eternal MMA, where she won her first fight by unanimous decision. She kept the momentum going with some solid wins, including a knockout victory at UAE Warriors in 2020. Then came the UFC, where O'Neill made an explosive debut in February 2021, knocking out Shana Dobson in the second round at UFC Fight Night, Bladers vs. Lewis. That was just the beginning. She went on to choke out Lara Procopio and win her next fight against Antonina Shevchenko via TKO, earning a well-deserved Performance of the Night award. Most recently, she faced Luana Santos at UFC 305 in August 2024, after Santos stepped in as a late replacement. O'Neill picked up the win by unanimous decision. In an online interview, Casey O'Neill revealed that she has a major sweet tooth. When it comes to cheat meals, she's all about donuts and cookies.
Yeah, donuts are up there. Donuts and cookies. I have a big sweet tooth, so those two are definitely my favorite.
If you think Casey's meal is an interesting topic, then you would love to know why this next fighter is obsessed with his meals. He is Gregor Gillespie. Gregor Gillespie is an American mixed martial artist who's made quite a name for himself in the lightweight division of the UFC. With an impressive 7-1 record in the UFC, he's definitely someone to watch in the octagon. Before moving into MMA, Gillespie was a wrestling powerhouse. He went to Edinburgh University and dominated the collegiate wrestling scene, earning a national championship in 2007 and becoming a 4-time NCAA Division I All-American. But despite all his success, he decided to step away from the wrestling mats after realizing he probably wasn't going to beat Jordan Burroughs, who was also a force to be reckoned with. So he hung up his wrestling shoes and got into coaching. And, believe it or not, that's when MMA started to catch his attention. In 2012, Gillespie's MMA debut got pushed back after a broken arm, but by 2014 he was back and undefeated with a 7-0 record on the regional scene. He made the jump to the big leagues in 2016, signing with the UFC. His debut came against Glyco Franca at UFC Fight Night 95 and won that fight by unanimous decision. From there, things just kept rolling. In an online interview, he revealed that he was obsessed with breaded buffalo chicken sandwiches from a particular restaurant.
There's a restaurant here called Charlie's, and I get their breaded buffalo chicken sandwich on a hard roll, and they have the homemade buffalo sauce. It's called Bossy sauce. I get 3 orders of fried mushrooms with blue cheese, and I get the biggest Oreo milkshake extra thick that they have.
The next fighter is someone you will call a retired sweet tooth. Corey Sandhagen, chips and salsa. Corey Sandhagen is a name that fans in the UFC bantamweight division have been keeping a close eye on for years. This guy's got talent, and he's definitely made his mark since joining the promotion. Corey wasn't always focused on mixed martial arts, he was actually into basketball back in high school. But something about combat sports called to him, and after dabbling in taekwondo, he switched to boxing and eventually kickboxing. He racked up multiple WKA titles before finally transitioning to MMA. Corey's been around the MMA scene since 2015, but it wasn't until 2017 that he started making waves, particularly with the Legacy Fighting Alliance, where he picked up some key wins. But it was his debut in the UFC that really put him on the map. On January 27, 2018, he stepped in against Austin Arnett and won the fight by second-round TKO, just like that. But that was only the beginning. Later in 2018, he picked up another big win at UFC Fight Night, Gaethje vs. Vick, when he went up against Yuri Alcantara. After a back and forth, Corey took it home with a second-round TKO, earning himself a Fight of the Night bonus. Corey's knockout of Frankie Edgar in 2021 is another one for the books. A flying knee that ended Edgar's night in just 1 round. That's not something you see every day. And of course, it earned him another Performance of the Night bonus. As of August 2024, Sandhagen sits at number 4 in the UFC bantamweight rankings. In an interview, Corey Sandhagen made a funny and casual mention of his eating habits, saying he's shifted away from his old junk food routine. These days, he's all about chips and salsa, claiming it's his new favorite snack.
I'm not a sweets guy anymore. I used to be a big sweets guy. I used to be an ice cream guy, but now I'm kind of like, as lame as it sounds, bro, I really like chips and salsa.
If you found this video interesting, click on any of the cards on your screen to check out more exciting stories about it.